Welcome back to the Great Canadian Blueprint. I'm Ian, your guide through Canada's economic and real estate past. Today we're diving into the story of wheat pools. As a Remax real estate agent from Hamilton, Ontario, I'm unpacking the economic, social, and real estate shifts that really shaped our country. Let's get into it. Back in the early 1900s, prairie farmers were getting squeezed. Picture this. You're a small farmer working your land all year long, only to see your profits vanish into the hands of big players. Who are these big players, you might ask? Well, they're the grain companies and the railways, two monopolies that had the system locked down. First, the grain companies. Big names like Northern Elevator Company and Dominion Elevator Company owned most of the elevators. Those giant storage towers dotted the prairies. By 1920, private firms controlled around 3,000 elevators. They'd consolidated over years, teaming up with railways to corner the market. They were the middleman, buying wheat cheap from farmers, then charging them shipping and storage fees and selling it for a profit to foreign buyers. Then there was the Canadian Pacific Railway, or CPR, built in the 1880s with hefty government handouts. Although it did face competition from what later became the CN Rail, it was the main way to ship wheat from the prairies to ports. The CPR, having very limited competition, could charge whatever it wanted, and farmers had no choice but to pay. Plus, they owned elevators along the tracks, doubling down on the squeeze. For a small farmer producing a few thousand bushels a year, it was a losing battle. No storage, no shipping, no leverage. It was a David versus Goliath situation. The farmers were fed up watching their hard work line the pockets of those giants. So, in 1923, they fought back. That's when the wheat pools were born. Farmer-owned cooperatives in Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba. The plan? Team up. Together, they'd market their grain, negotiate better prices, and build their own elevators to ditch the middleman. And it worked. By pooling their wheat, they could sell it in bulk and hold out for better prices and funded their own elevators with levies. With thousands of farmers pitching in, they raised enough to build 20 elevators in their first year. By 1928, the Saskatchewan Wheat Pool owned 970 elevators. They went from farmers to full-on force. Those elevators did more than store grain. They transformed prairie towns. In places like Regina, Saskatoon, and Moose Jaw, they towered over everything else, symbols of economic life. They drew in businesses, stores, banks, hotels, pushing land values sky high. Back in the 1870s, prairie land sold for about $1 or $2 an acre. By 1900, town lots hit $500, and by 1920, prime spots fetched $5,000. The pool elevators turned sleepy outposts into real estate gold mines. But it wasn't all smooth sailing. The Great Depression crushed wheat prices, and pools took a beating. They stopped marketing grain in 1935, passing the job off to the Canadian Wheat Board. Still, they kept running elevators, and by the 1950s, they owned the industry. It wasn't until the 1990s that most pools demutualized, becoming private firms like Viterra. Here's the kicker. Today's grain industry feels eerily familiar. A few big names, Viterra, G3, Richardson International, control an estimated 60% of grain handling and exports. It's not a monopoly, but an oligopoly. A handful of players running the show. Small farmers still struggle, facing tough terms at times, yet the cooperative spirit lingers. Regional co-ops like Providence Grain Solutions and even credit unions and banking prove that teamwork can still take on the titans. So, what's the lesson? The wheat pools show that collective action can crack monopolies. Their legacy is a reminder. Unity can tilt the scales even today. Here's the question. If you were a prairie farmer in the 1900s, would you join a co-op to fight the big grain companies? Or stay with the status quo and follow the preset system? Let me know what you think. I'd love to hear your take. Thanks for watching the Great Canadian Blueprint, and I look forward to the next one.